Hello, welcome to Human Design Center. I'm glad that we share a common interest in human design, the science of differentiation, the art of living your life according to your unique design and genetic matrix that sustains it. Today you are going to learn or recap, as the case may be, about Hexagram 8, Holding Together, Contribution. Hexagram 8 is part of second trimester of DUBHE, where we accomplish our purpose through physical form, civilization. Gate 8 corresponds to goddess MAIA, the feminine archetype of the mother of all gods, being the one that gave birth to Hermes, the messenger of the Olympic gods. Zodiac sign, Taurus, center, throat center, which is about communication, manifestation, metamorphosis, transformation through human interaction. Gate 8 flows within the individual knowing circuit, which is about present, hearing, acoustic melancholy, empowering myself and empowering others. Keyword, empowerment. The harmonic gate is number 1, the creative, self-expression, being part of the projected channel 1 and 8, the channel of inspiration, the creative role model, which is about expressing personal truth, sharing unique insights and perspectives with others. Gate 8 seeks to contribute to the collective by sharing the creative expression of Gate 1, located in G center, with the world. The opposite gate is number 14, possession in great measure, power skills, amino acid, phenylalanine, relevant organ, Adam's apple. Tarot card associated, 4 of coins. Gate 8, infant trimester, in MAIA, forms the channel with Gate 1, located in the 4th trimester of Sirius, mutation in spirit, connecting to Hades archetype. This way, amino acid phenylalanine, associated with Gate 8, communicates with amino acid lysine of Gate 1. It is relevant for the value and functioning of this gate to observe that amino acid phenylalanine is the same as for the Gate 2, under the castle of the same goddess MAIA. It is useful to have in mind that these two gates share the same amino acid, both placed within the same energy of MAIA. Phenylalanine is an essential amino acid, meaning it should be brought into the body from your diet, because the body cannot make it. Phenylalanine is a precursor for the biosynthesis of tyrosine, this one being formed on the basis of phenylalanine that we take from our food. It's an aspect to ponder. When you analyze the gates corresponding to tyrosine, meaning 31 and 62, do not forget that there is a chain connection with the way of functioning of the gates 8th and 2nd verses 31st and 62nd. It will give you a meaningful reading of these gates. If a person have high levels of phenylalanine, then, for sure, there is a decreased level of tyrosine, therefore, a decreased level of neurotransmitters, which are involved in the cognitive functions of our body. Phenylalanine is naturally present in high-protein foods, such as meat, fish, eggs, dairy products, cereals, beans, nuts, and tofu. It is also abundantly present in some non-protein foods, such as carbonated drinks and foods containing artificial sweeteners, aspartame. So, since we've located the gate on the mandala and on the body graph, and we have a general summary of the essential characteristics of Gate 8, and for sure we can get a meaningful keynoting, now, let's dive into the 8th gate message and energy. Gate 8 is about the basic worth, realized in contributing individual efforts to group goals. Moving down from the throat center, we move to the polarity gates, gates that point up to the throat from the G center. These are not gates pointed up towards the mental process, which are the gates that are primary gates of communication, but gates that are primary gates of identity, gates that communicate the nature of the identity. Each and every one of these gates pointing up to the throat, including the 8th gate, has a direct connection to the G center, to the center of our identity. Therefore, these gates speak of 3 different qualities of identity. we have collective identity, the logical identity in the 31, and an abstract identity in the 33. The 8th gate in the center, between 31 and 33 of the throat, speaks for the individual identity. It is called holding together, uniting through cooperation, inspiring trust, and providing possible outlets for those who foster and create novel concepts and ideas. Above the lines it says, the basic worth realized in contributing individual efforts to group goals. The power of solidarity, where union makes strength, the union of individual contributions. The whole nature of this gate is its voice, and its voice says, I know I can. It also says, I know I can't. Like all of these voice gates, you have the polarity built into it. I know I can make a contribution to the group effort through my individuality. This is the nature of this 8th gate. What does it mean to contribute? To facilitate? To be an agent of change? Think about agents, editors, directors, since without their contribution, the artist's work will never be shared or seen. The 8th gate shows to you, in a concrete chart, how to become an agent of change, how to pool our resources, how to get people to contribute by putting them on the same page. In the 8th gate, here is the answer. Since it's a gate of contribution, but also a gate of holding together, where we gather all these concepts, ideals, and resources and find out how to put them out into the world. At this point, you might need to see the difference between Gate 8 and 23 for a better understanding of Gate 8, the subject, the current material. Gate 23 is, I know. Gate 8 is, trust me. When Gate 23 says, I know, is about learning how to find our voice in order to convey and transmit concepts and insights that have the potential to change the world. Gate 8 says, trust me. It knows what the destination looks like. It knows what we are aiming towards, but do not ask how we get there. Do not ask for rules and blueprints and instruction manuals. Just trust me, says the Gate 8. In other words, Gate 23 is about communicating and transmitting original novel concepts and ideals, but Gate 8 is about inspiring trust and providing possible outlets for those who foster and create these original concepts and ideals. This is why, as I said earlier, Gate 8 is the agent. That says, I'll sort it out for you. I will direct the course of your activities. I will give the right materials. I will open up the right doors so you can express and expose your creativity in the world. How to do this? It can be understood in the lines of the 8th gate. Walking through the 6 lines of the Gate 8, it's a process that will bring clarity to you in relation to nuances of the content and expression of the 8th gate. At the end, we will touch upon the crosses of incarnation, where Gate 8 plays its role and become part of the purpose. Gate 8, line 1, honesty. You already know that first lines always speak of the essence of a hexagram, and this first line is called honesty. It says, the truthful acceptance of limitation and the recognition that it can only be transcended through sharing. This is so important. The individual is always limited because nothing in the individual process can actually flower unless it is being accepted either by the collective or the tribe. We have already seen that social pressures are going to be very important in the development of an individual life. This 8th gate is a deep recognition that the individual is there to guide the collective. After all, the first gate, which is on the other side, is one of the 4 gates of the Sphinx. This is a gate of direction, and it is part of the central column that runs up, and it is all about a mutative process. The 8th gate expresses the identity of the individual that says, I will share with you my knowing for your benefit. That is the individual process. I want to be able to contribute my knowing, my recognition, my capacity to explain to you what the direction is, and I want to share that with you for your benefit, so that you won't hurt me because I'm different than you are. When you carry this first line, be authentic. Being candid will attract all those who wish to contribute. The essential of this line is to be straightforward with people. Be forthright about the fact that you don't necessarily know how it's all going to turn out, but that you will hold the space until it does. On one side, you have Neptune exalted, the awareness that the whole is always greater than the sum of its parts. This is a deep recognition, the understanding that nothing, the knowing in that sense, is complete unless it involves the totality. This is the beginning of the process of the individual acting as an agent of change in the world, because they recognize that they must penetrate into the collective. On the other side of this, the Mercury in detriment, withdrawal, the fear of losing individuality in a group environment. This is the fundamental fear of all individuality. I know that I can make a contribution to the collective, but does that mean that then I have to be just like them when I don't want to? I can contribute by directing them, but I don't want to be like them because I can't. I can only be like me. This fear is underneath. In the White Book, knowing that creative expression must be honestly communicated and shared. Do not forget that the gate 1 and 8 forms the channel of the creative role model. This is about being an example and not being a leader, that is logical, not being a witness, that is abstract. It is about being an example. An example does not dictate. An example acts out its example in the hope that this can be a contribution to the totality. The efforts must be offered without concern or obvious rewards. You have this gift of bringing people together, distributing the energies, and you have a particular way of doing it, but you do that for the game. You are in it for the play. Be careful of overextending yourself. You might compromise your integrity by volunteering out of turn, becoming exploited or spurned. The other side, the design to share creativity at the expense of individuality. Yes, we love your contribution, but from now on, you have to make your contribution on Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays from 11 to 13. This is always a threat to the individual. There is a balancing point between maintaining one's individuality and reaching out to the collective. A chart with strong individual activation deals with you all as a collective. There can be found a medium for that by using the capacity to explain yourself as an individual, if there is any activation in that sense. In being able to explain yourself, you can connect to the collective. But remember, you are and you will remain different than the collective, and nothing about the people in the collective will change you, the individual. When dealing with the collective, the first line wants to make a contribution for all of you, and remember, the individual is doing that to protect itself. The second thing is, if it works, the individual feels very good about connecting to the collective, and it is important to do that. The individual becomes stronger in this connection to the collective, whether or not it is connected to the ego. If it becomes egotistical about it, that is another story, but they do become stronger and they do contribute to protect themselves. For a proper understanding, remember, that is, by design, the only genetic path for mutation. The connection of the individual to the collective, it is for others. In the end, this contribution is there to provide mutation, and that mutation can be good or bad. You can bring disease into the world as an individual, and you can kill half the population. You can bring a mental virus into the world that destroys the way people see the world or think. Everything is possible in the nature of what mutation is. It is just about the process, but in that sense, it is always about offering. That is why the third line says it is a phony, but we will get the message of the third line a little bit later when we get to the third line. Gate 8, line 2, service. When you get to the second line, to understand it, remember about the specific projection of a second line. You are dealing here with a gate that says, I know that I can make a contribution or not. As second lines, they are projecting outwards the fact that they are there to make a contribution. It is the great line of service. The nature of making a contribution is that they are making it without really recognizing what is being contributed as a direction. They do not really have the depth. They just project out that they can make a contribution. Service, the highest good, to serve selflessly. The earth in detriment, where reward is a prerequisite of service. It is a very simple line. In the White Book, the potential to be an example through unselfish expression, or the willingness to be an example for a price. One or the other. These are the kind of people that will guide you through the city. You pay them and they'll guide you. They will take you along and they will leave you off when they are finished with you. They can do a very good job, individually, taking the collective on a tour, and you pay them, and later they'll leave you, or they will do it selflessly. The lost tourist in the city, and somebody comes very nicely and takes them on a tour and shows them where everything is. It can be selfless. It can be for pay, but they do not really know what they are contributing. Because of that, they are projecting out that they can make the contribution, but maybe they can't. Being the friend, friendliness is an expression of the highest human ideal. Friendship, that can be seen in this line, counts so much because it's so important to have people that see you, carrying the second line, in the right way. People who guide us forward or hold our hands when we are in a difficult situation in life. Friendship that is projected out by this line means many different things to so many different people. But here, your natural way of expressing friendly services is by holding the space for creative endeavors. It's just in your nature to give guidance, to provide the services in a friendship manner, and open the services for others. You naturally empower others through your presence and contributions. The word natural is about an easy way of doing things. You naturally befriend others who need your guidance, who need you to represent them in some way or other. Second lines can be paper tigers. They can always be putting out this genetic signal that says, I can make a contribution. And when they are asked to make the contribution, they may not be able to fulfill it, and then they go through the crisis of all individuality. When it cannot fulfill its example, then it is shunned. The collective will not pay any attention anymore. The classic description for the 8th hexagram is the taxi driver. This is really what the 8th hexagram is all about. You get into their car, and they'll drive you along. They will take you from place to place. This is their nature, but they are not there to stay with you. They are there to go through this directive process and make their contribution. So many people that have the 8th gate are disturbed by the fact that they can make a valid contribution for others, but those others soon forget. They go on to other things. This is about the selflessness of the individual that is necessary. The joy comes from being yourself. The contribution to society allows you to maintain your integrity as an individual because they will leave you alone if you can make a contribution. Gate 8, line 3, the phony. We get to the end of the lower trigram. Remember that lower trigrams are only concerned about the nature of the gate itself. This is the line of Pope John Paul II, the acceptance of the style and not the substance of communal actions. First of all, start with the understanding of a third line. All third lines are lines of adaptation. They are the basis of trial and error. They are based on this learning process. What is recognized in that learning process is that the individual cannot survive unless they find a way, a mode, a role, a mask, a style for being able to connect to the collective. What happens to people that have the 8.3 is that they look for the right kind of style. John Paul II found his style. He has a tall hat, a stake, and they all have their costumes. Through that style, even though he is very individual, something is expressed to the collective. The collective gets access to his guidance, to his example, because he is a master of that style. To be a phony is neither positive nor negative. It is simply the real description of what this is. The style is everything. The moon exalted, the perfected and rarely detected superficial intimacy. This is classic of the individual, the style to create the intimacy, and yet, at the same time, a deep protection that says, hey, I'm still this individual. The other side has Saturn in detriment, a shallowness that underestimates others and overestimates its own ability to continue its deception without detection. Style is style. It is not substance. This is the individual playing out a role, and in playing out that role, they make mistakes and grow out of that process. In the White Book, the example as an expression through style, not substance, or an over-reliance and unfounded confidence in style. These are people that when the collective is not interested in them and their style has not worked, they cannot figure out why. Why didn't it work? I mean, I look like a guru. I talk like a guru. Why didn't anybody come? Style is not always the real thing, but it helps individuals to have a mask. The individual pretends to be like the collective. Third line expresses an apparent interest, but often without necessarily ever committing itself. You might rely on techniques to impress others in ways to avoid getting overly involved with them. There is an issue between contribution and commitment for third line. They always like to have the door opened, ready to leave if necessary. So, the message of the third line might sound like this: I'll be your agent. I'll do whatever is necessary. But I've got something else going on. I might put my attention somewhere else altogether. Third line people should constantly check the basis or the motivation of their commitments and what type of company they attract. What is your motivation? Are you attracting the right people? Are you really seeking to offer this advantage to people? Or is it just a job? Just something you do? Gate 8, line 4, respect. When you get to the upper trigram in this gate of contribution that is designed to connect to the collective, you get to transpersonal gates. So you get to the innate ability within the individual in this line to be able to reach out to the community or the tribe. This line is called respect. Remember that fourth lines are all about being fixed and one-tracked, but they are also deeply opportunistic, waiting for those opportunities. The gift of naturally recognizing the contributions of others, and particularly the acknowledgement of those who lead by example. Jupiter exalted. The uncompromising drive to assimilate. Remember something about the 8. It is looking to the other side, to the one. The one is the yang force. This is the creative direction in life. This is the individual creative expression. You can imagine that the one is the artist and the 8 is the gallery dealer. That is their relationship. The capacity in the 8.4 is to recognize the value of the creative potential on the other side and to see that this creative potential, through their contribution, is something that can affect the totality. It is the art dealer that sees the painter and looks at the paintings and thinks, "Oh my God, this is wonderful." He puts it into his shop, and all of a sudden, they become well known because that contribution has been made. On the other side, Mercury in detriment. In a group where limitation is transcended, reason alone cannot predict individual worth. As an example, the acknowledged leader of an athletics team is not necessarily the most talented. The individual who is fixed on making a contribution can be the one that really becomes the leader and the example in that sense. This example of an athletic team. You may have an athlete on that team who is somebody whose very spirit is about making a selfless contribution to the nature of how that team operates. They are the ones that will ultimately get the attention of the team and be a de facto leader by the quality of their example. What is being very fixed here is the fixed communication, the fixed expression of direction that the 8.4 knows it must make. In the White Book, the drive to contribute and be an example to and for others. And on the other side, a gift for contribution that is not conditioned by limitations. This is a very positive line. These people can be very one-tracked. What happens to them is that they are very positive for everybody else, but they suffer a great deal themselves. These are people that are always making a contribution, and they don't necessarily feel like they are recognized for the contribution they are making. Remember that there is an intrinsic honesty in the resonance to the first line here in the fourth line. There is an honesty about who can really lead and who can't, who can really be an example and who can't. When they make their contribution, there is a sense that nobody is paying attention to them. The eighth gate can often feel unloved for its contribution, and of course the Sphinx gates are not about love. They are about direction. This is one of those things for all eighth gates to deal with. They have a capacity to contribute to others and make that contribution without necessarily being rewarded. That does not mean that they do not get the reward, but it does mean that it is much more difficult because they are individual. Pay attention on the end of this line where it says that they are not necessarily the most talented. One of the keys to individuality, individuals are not here to be best. The moment that an individual thinks that they have to be the best, it is over. The best is for the collective. That is a collective thing. That is mastery, experimentation, to get to the point where you are really the best. But the individual is here to be different. They don't have to be the most talented athlete to be the focus of attention and to be the example that guides others. They just have to be themselves. Whenever I deal with individuals, I always remind them of that. Do not punish yourself in thinking that you have to be the best. You never, ever have to be the best. You only have to be yourself. If you are yourself, you will be recognized, and if you try to be the best, you will not. Understand the principle of that. The collective process is about comparing, and the individual process is not. So, the moment you are trying to be best, it is all a comparison game, and it has nothing to do with being individual. Other thing to remember about the behavior, the fourth line is looking to get everybody else's different contributions and concepts and ideas in an arrangement that uplifts and empowers everyone, in a way, because the arrangement of the fourth line is always cooperative and capable of moving forward the cooperation and everyone involved in this cooperation. You promote everyone to raise their standards through your contribution and example. You hold things to a high standard, but you must know that if you work out of the box, if you negotiate, your contributions may or may not be appreciated by others. The challenge here is to lower the standards or not. This would be a situation where the arrangement, the cooperation we talked about, will need some maneuvering and efforts to get everybody on board. That's the work of a fourth line. Gate 8, line 5, Dharma. First lines always tell you the essence of what that hexagram is about. And the fifth lines are always about how it is seen from the outside, how people projects on the fifth line. The way that this individual contribution is seen from the outside is as something that is rooted in separation. In other words, the way in which the outside sees the individual through this fifth line is, let us take advantage of their direction, but leave them once we get there. This is a great line of the taxi driver. This line is called Dharma. Holding together does not exclude eventual separation. Successful union, after a proper term, will encourage separation. The novice, at once mature, is expected to leave the nest. This is a right action that does not harm the integrity of the union. It is very important for these people to recognize that other people need their direction, but once they have it, it does not mean that they must go away. It means that they must be allowed to go away. In other words, for the person that has the 8.5, they can always make the contribution of direction, but who they make that contribution to isn't necessarily going to be consistent. The fifth line has an overview of everything. They can see all the potentials, where things could go, how things could be sorted out, how best to make this huge step up into something new and different. A step that takes us out of the logical side, out of the collective side where we follow patterns, as we already know. The fifth line asks itself, how do we make it worthwhile for everyone? What's the timing? What's the attitude that's needed to get everybody on board here? The fifth line draw people by abundant and kindly manner. They know that when you are kind to people, when you recognize them, when you pay attention to what they are offering and how to draw that creativity out of them, they step up. The persistent contribution of line 5 is ultimately appreciated, whether they know this or not. They usually have the chance to find out that there is a huge appreciation for their efforts in getting people on the same page, even if things do not work out as planned. The destination is one thing. How to get there is another. We have two ways of looking at fifth line. One way is the exalted side with Jupiter, the teacher. The other is the sun in detriment, the parent that cannot let go of the child, understanding only that its authority is being challenged. I know what is best for you, says the parent. In the White Book, contribution, as part of a process of sharing that accepts and expects limitation, exemplified in teaching. The ultimate goal of the individual teacher is to have students that not only transcend them, but leave them. Here, you have the knowledge. Go away. I do not want to see you again. Take the knowledge and do your thing. This is the essence of that one side. It is okay that you are not going to be there for the rest of this person's life. On the other side, in the detriment, is this sense of loss in the capacity to make that contribution. Somebody accepts that contribution, and all of a sudden they are gone. They have this sense of loss that they cannot continue to live out this role of contributing. Contribution as an end in itself that neither accepts nor expects limitation, exemplified by the parent that cannot let go of the child. The ideal is that when you are the 8.5 taxi driver, when you get to where they have to go, you have to let them out. You cannot keep them in the back seat. They have to pay you and go. Otherwise, you have a real problem. This is the nature of the 8.5, this recognition. Remember that it is projected on them that they can make the selfless contribution. This one will take me. This one will guide me. Every time that individual is being asked for their guidance, and they are always looking for that out of the 8th gate, in that moment, this is a very important energy for them to come into contact with. It is difficult when that energy is gone, unless one accepts the nature of what this role is, to make that contribution and recognize that it is not about fixing something for life. Again, that is the protection of the individual, not to get caught up in who you contribute to and end up being conditioned by them away from your true nature. You were so good at driving me in a taxi, now I let you drive my bus. Think about the dilemma of the 8. You have the 8 and you go into a department store and somebody comes up to you and says, "Can you tell me where the quality department is?" The 8 is always going to be asked for their service no matter where they are. They are always going to be mistaken for people that can take you where you have to go. They are under a lot of pressure because of that. Gate 8, line 6, communion. When you get to the 6th line, you get to the end of the process and you get to communion. It says, the certainty which grows out of harmony. Venus exalted. The awareness of patterns that ensures correct timing. This is one of the things that come out of the individual process, which is the recognition that, without the correct timing, because individuals are rooted in their moods, contribution may not be successful. We all know this in one way or another, where you offer to make a contribution to somebody, to offer them direction. If you offer it at the wrong time, nothing is going to work, even if you are very clear. If you offer it at the right time, even if you are not clear, they are more open to it. Everything about the contribution of the individual to society is rooted in a sense of timing. Pluto in detriment. Doubt which may engender regret even in the most ideal circumstances. The polarity in the White Book. The gift of knowing when to contribute creatively. Or uncertainty in timing and regret despite circumstances. 6 lines are not about to make a contribution. Like all 6 lines, there is a restrictive process within them. It is a process that says, yes, but will this contribution lead to mutation? In other words, if I'm a taxi driver, I will only take somebody from A to B if it is going to change the world, and if it will not change the world, why should I bother and just simply do that? Is it really of value? Deep in the individual process is this ongoing need to find a way to bring mutation into the world. The 6th line is saying, Sanaitide. All right, I will make that contribution, but it has to be mutative. It has to be something that really is going to be of value. The knowing when to contribute is the recognition of patterns. Individuals need to come to grips with that. They have to understand the collective and the tribe, because if they don't understand the others, if they do not understand their patterns, it will be much more difficult for them to make a contribution at the right time that can be mutative. Think about how that works. A therapist is doing homeopathic work with one of his patients. They had a problem, and he had the right medicine which he gave them, but it did not work. Later on, he received the advice to take a look at the transits and see when that part of the body is connected. The problem of the patient was related with the face. It was somebody who had an open ajna and an open throat center. So there was a transit coming, a nodal transit to the 4323 that would connect the open centers, so that this medicine, which is designed for the pituitary gland, could actually get to these glands. He told the person to come back again and that he had found something that really worked, the same medicine. He gave the patient this medicine during the nodal transit, which lasted 2 months, and the problem cleared up. The success of individual contribution is determined by timing. If you give the right medicine at the wrong time, it means nothing. What happens is that this individual gets caught up in this process of where is the right cosmic moment. It is not just the mundane timing. It is the timing that unleashes this process, unleashes this possibility, so that this contribution can lead to mutation. Now let's move on to a different perspective to see how the 8th gate sustains or communicates the purpose of life through the crosses of incarnation that are established when the conscious sun is placed within the 8th gate, 8th hexagram, right angle cross of contagion 2, consisting of following gates: 8, 14, 30, 29. People who lead by example and desire to make a contribution by committing resources towards ensuring future security and wealth. A civilizing example that impacts others. The energy of your cross is to be a contributor through your individual effort. Your passion and expression of excitement is contagious and inspires others to follow your lead. This energy means that it is unlikely you will be the follower of others, at least not all the way. At some point, you will step out on your own to break new ground. When you do, it creates the energy for others to latch onto your ideas and catch the wave. Juxtaposition, cross of contribution, consisting of following gates: 8, 14, 55, 59. People fixed on contributing to society in some creative, intimate way, like getting married and spending years restoring an old, rundown estate together. The energy of this cross is to make your contribution to society through demonstration. For example, in the movie It's a Wonderful Life, there is an undeniable drive between George and Mary to get married, buy the old house, and spend their life continuously fixing it up. You too have a drive to adopt some project and take it under your wing by fixing it and making it better. This is your contribution to society. Left angle cross of uncertainty, consisting of following gates: 8, 14, 55, 59. People who step into the mutative uncertainty of turning energy into form. You need the right spirit and the right material resources to try. The energy of your cross provides you with the desire to get the right house, the right plot of land, and all sorts of nice things. The underlying uncertainty of this cross is in the question: do I have the right house, car, land, purse, shoes, etc.? All people with the left angle cross of uncertainty have the 55th gate, which represents melancholy and the way from joy to sadness and back. The trick of living this cross is realizing that the sadness to joy is a swing and always will be. Know that when you are feeling melancholy, the joy is coming. It is through this awareness and focus that you bring happiness to your life. As your decisions feel right over time, know that you have made the right choice. I hope this material is helpful and supporting for the development of your human design knowledge. Please share if you enjoyed listening, and subscribe if you want to be notified about any new posting of informative learning materials regarding human design. Thank you.